Okay, so today we're looking at the reading, which is from Chapter 2, Section 5. This is about the beginnings of slavery in the United States. So our key terms here are immune, having a natural resistance to a disease; Middle Passage, the voyage across the Atlantic that enslaved Africans were forced to endure; and the African diaspora, which is the scattering of African people due to slavery. Some academic vocabulary: structure, the way something is organized. And I almost forgot that we need to also take a look at our main ideas here. Main idea 1. European diseases wiped out much of the Native American population, causing colonists to look for a new labor force. Main idea 2. Europeans enslaved millions of Africans and sent them to work in their colonies. And main idea 3. Slaves in the Americas created a distinct culture. So let's go to our section summary. The need for a new labor force. Diseases like measles, smallpox, and typhus had afflicted Europeans for many centuries. As a result, Europeans were more immune to the diseases. Native Americans were not. Therefore, these European diseases had a devastating effect on the Native American population. Now, the European colonists needed a new workforce for their plantations. Plantations were important to the colonial economic structure. As Africans had already developed some immunity to European diseases, the colonists decided that slaves from West Africa could be the solution to the labor problem. The slave trade. In 1510, the Spanish government legalized the sale of slaves in its colonies. Over the next century, more than 1 million African slaves were brought to the Spanish and Portuguese colonies. The English and Dutch were also active slave traders. Spanish and Portuguese colonies, the English and Dutch were also active slave traders. Yes, you said that, Mrs. Devlin. Enslaved people were often captured in the interior of Africa, chained, and forced to march up to 1,000 miles to the coast. They were then chained together and packed in as cargo in the lower decks of ships crossing the Atlantic Ocean. The voyage was known as the Middle Passage. In the crowded ships, disease spread very quickly. Many of the slaves died of sickness, suffocation, or malnutrition during the voyage. Between the 1520s and the 1860s, about 12 million Africans were shipped down across the Atlantic as slaves. The slave trade led to African diaspora. Slaves had few rights in the colonies and were considered to be property. The treatment of enslaved Africans varied, but severe treatment and dreadful punishments were often part of American slavery. Slave culture in the Americas. Slaves in America came from many parts of Africa. They spoke different languages and had different cultural backgrounds, but they also shared many customs and viewpoints. They built a new culture on the things they had in common. Families were a key part of slave culture, but slave families faced many challenges. A family was often broken apart when members were sold to different owners. Religion was a refuge for slaves. Slave religion was primarily Christian, but it also included traditional elements from African religions. Religion gave slaves a sense of self-worth and hope for salvation. Slaves used songs and folktales to tell stories of sorrow, hope, agony, and joy. You don't have to do the challenge activity for today, but you do need to send me your answers to those on-the-side questions to receive full credit on today's assignment. Good luck!